December 6th, 2025. U.S. National Weather Impacts Briefing. A broad, amplified long-wave trough dominates the eastern two-thirds of the CONUS, with multiple shortwaves and surface lows rippling along its leading edge, while a ridge and drier pocket persist across parts of the southwest and Florida. That pattern is producing pockets of low ceilings and radiation fog in the southeast, widespread gusty winds and mountain turbulence over the Rockies and Central Plains, and a scattering of low cloud ceilings and occasional rain along the mid-Atlantic to New England corridor, where frontal bands and coastal cyclogenesis are acting to enhance low-level moisture and lift. Starting in the southeast, much of Florida and the deep south are under weak surface pressure gradients with light overnight winds and residual low-level moisture. So expect patchy to locally dense radiation fog inland this morning that should lift and mix to VFR by mid-morning as southerly breezes develop. Coastal terminals will remain mostly VFR, but watch for brief visibility reductions inland around sunrise. The same troughing to our north has a stalled frontal tail over north-central Florida, which is keeping a moist southerly flow in place and will be the focus for any isolated convection later in the day. However, convective coverage is expected to be limited today. Across the southeastern Gulf states, winds aloft are increasing ahead of the trough axis, producing stronger low-level shear and occasional gusts this afternoon that could impact ground operations and smaller turboprops. Pilots should brief gust spreads and increased crosswind potential on short runways. In the central and southern plains, a series of surface lows and tightening pressure gradients are delivering gusty winds and mixing that will support mechanical turbulence in and near mountain passes and lee side flows, with the strongest wind signatures tied to the advancing shortwave energy. Over the Rockies and Intermountain West, stronger westerly flow aloft and tightening low-level jets around the trough are creating enhanced mountain wave and rotor potential, particularly on lee slopes and downstream of prominent ridgelines. Turbulence and occasional moderate mountain wave activity are likely today, and altitudes near and above ridgetop levels will be the most affected. This same flow will create broad mixing and gusty surface winds over the eastern Rockies into the high plains that can complicate climb gradients and generate low-level wind shear near terminal environments. The Midwest and Great Lakes region are being influenced by a developing surface, low near the western Great Lakes with a trailing cold front, which is promoting a band of low clouds and scattered light precipitation across portions of the region this morning. Expect MVFR to localized IF ear ceilings within the frontal cloud band and occasional reductions in visibility and rain, with pockets of gusty winds behind the front as cooler air mixes down into the boundary layer. Airline dispatch should watch flow-dependent delays near hub airports as this compact low evolves through the day. From the mid-Atlantic into New England, a coastal low near the Carolina coast, and the amplified trough aloft are producing persistent low-level moisture and onshore flow that favors low ceilings and periods of steady stratiform rain into portions of the I-95 corridor and coastal terminals. Ceilings and visibility will be the main operational concern for morning and early afternoon operations in the Northeast metroplexes, with timing and coastal proximity modulating. Which fields see sustained MVFR or brief IFR conditions? Expect heavier bands to be confined near the coast with the inland metro areas, generally seeing low ceilings and light rain. On the west coast, the flow is largely zonal, with the transient Pacific shortwave affecting the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. This will keep low cloud decks and onshore stratus over coastal and bay terminals into the morning, with a trend toward partial improvement by afternoon inland, where mixing occurs. Southern California stays under a drier regime, but localized terrain-driven low clouds and valley stratus should be monitored for morning constraints on SIDs and noise abatement departure procedures. Mountain turbulence over the Sierra and lee side wind issues near the Mojave are possible in stronger corridors of the upper flow. Operational notes for crew briefings and dispatch. Prioritize ceiling visibility briefings in the Northeast and over the Great Lakes, where frontal cloud bands produce MVFR AFE this morning. Expect low-level wind shear and gust spreads in the southeast during afternoon mixing. Plan for mountain wave and turbulence avoidance upwind and downstream of the Rockies and Sierra, and include fog and short-duration visibility hits for interior Florida terminals at dawn. Ground op should check crosswind gusts, and desing needs remain nil today, given above-freezing profiles across the impacted areas. Closing the loop, the dominant mechanism to keep in mind today is the amplified eastern trough, with multiple shortwaves that is supplying the lift. Surface cyclogenesis and frontal placement responsible for low ceilings, scattered rain, and gusty winds across the central and eastern U.S., while ridging and drier flow over the southern and western extremes limit more widespread convection there. That framework should help prioritize which routes and nodes to watch as the day progresses.